So in this video, I'll be speaking about 3 philosophers on the topic of atheism and the philosophical question of evil and suffering. These are 2 topics that we've gone really in depth about in class, and I feel that I understand more so of the views of these philosophers. So to start, I will speak about atheism and how people tend to perceive atheism. Atheism is a very large issue worldwide, and it's been something that philosophers are able to talk about, be very open about, and many of them can help you understand why someone believes in God or not to believe in God. Atheism is a topic that many people don't want to get into, but these philosophers have got into it, and they've explained why they believe or why they don't believe. And for the ones that do believe, they make it stand out why they believe that a God is real, that a God is alive, and that there's something greater than all of us. So some people believe he's alive, some people believe that God is dead, and some just aren't sure what to think. So that is what it is. Atheism is actually a very interesting topic if you can understand the worldviews of people. If you can understand what a philosopher is trying to tell you, then atheism is very easy to understand. I'm not an atheist. I actually am a theist, and I believe in God. So this is a topic that has really helped me understand people that are atheists. So to start, I'm going to talk about Thomas Aquinas. He denied atheism, and he believed in God. He had 5 ways to prove that God was real, that he was alive. He had these 5 arguments. The argument of motion, which stated that nothing could be moving if something or someone did not make it move. Therefore, there was a God. A God made this happen. His next one was the argument of effective cause. And he was saying that if there's not something causing another thing to happen simultaneously, then nothing was possible. So, a God had to be creating each thing to happen. Next is the argument from possibility and necessity. He used a quote that said, "In nature, things are possible to be and not to be. So, therefore, a God must create those things to be." Next, we have the argument of gradation. Gradation is in all things, no matter if there's a good or a bad, and God created those things. The argument of design is the 5th argument. Some intelligent being exists by whom all natural things are directed to their end, and this intelligent being is a God. So the intelligent being created all of these natural things, but there has to be an end to all of them. Like there's an end to every life. There's an end to every life of a plant, a person, an animal. It doesn't matter what it is, but he's saying that a God created it. So he doesn't believe that atheism is a terrible thing, but he doesn't not believe in God. He believes fully in God, and he stands by that. The next person I'll speak about is Immanuel Kant. He believed that God is unknowable. This is because he did not believe that a human mind could fully understand something that is so beyond us, that there was a power beyond what we were and who we were. Now, he did believe in God, but he had to focus on the topic at hand. So he put his views aside, and he broke down why God could be real or why he couldn't. And even though he believed, he saw that there was a supernatural thing that he just couldn't fully grasp. So he wasn't an atheist, but I wouldn't consider him fully a theist because he could look at this as, is there a God? The next person is Friedrich. He was an atheist, and he stated that God is dead. He believed that there was not someone, a God, that died, but it was all in our minds, and as long as we believed in a God, then there was a God. So as long as you believe that there's a God and a higher power than you, then if you were to pray, let's take that for example, if you were to pray, then that higher power would hear you. But he didn't believe that there was truly a God that was just listening to every little thing that you, or watching every little movement that you did. Next, I will bring up the topic of reality of evil and suffering. Evil is all around us and affects us in many different ways, but so does suffering. And evil and suffering are tended to be spoken together because people believe that if there's evil in the world, then there will be suffering afterwards. And some people align this with God. And some people align it with the fact that if there's not a God, then yeah, there's evil and there's suffering in the world. But then others tend to look at it as if there's a God, how could he let there be evil and suffering in the world? And Thomas, actually, he said that he believed that to have evil in the world, then there had to be good first. So he said, good can exist without evil, whereas evil cannot exist without good. What is evil without something good first? So by this I mean that people can be good and then something could happen to them and they could turn evil and cause suffering in the world. So take for instance like a mass shooting. That person could have been perfectly okay and something could have happened to them, and then they just went out and did this. And that's more of a mental thing. But then you could also look at it as, what if they just had evil in them? What if they were suffering from something that caused them to have the evil in them? And that's why they acted out the way that they did. So for evil to go with suffering, it does. In this world, it does. Evil plays a role into suffering because, let me just move on. Immanuel Kant, he believed that evil and suffering played a role with one another. To suffer, there must be evil, he said. Kant had a quote that spoke about evil and suffering. He said that people could do evil to animals and they could watch them suffer. So therefore they could do evil to people that are innocent. So if you can do something to someone that is innocent or an animal that is innocent, then that's truly evil at playing at hand. And then you're causing suffering. Friedrich looked at it as evil and suffering was not only about pain. Pain was not just something that evil caused. But if you were living, like we're all living, we go through life, we see evil and we suffer. We suffer, but if we can live through it, then we're able to truly survive. We can survive all the evil, all the pain in the world, all the suffering that occurs, and we have to watch it. So he believed that if people could overcome it, then they survived. In conclusion, atheism is a worldwide issue, and many view it as so. But if you listen closely and understand what a philosopher is trying to tell you, then you can really start to see why one believes what they do and how the world works behind that. For every topic, you have to look at the bigger picture and understand why people believe what they do. Understand their background and their history to make them believe this. Evil is something that will not just go away in a day. It probably will never go away. But philosophers investigate and truly find a meaning behind certain things that just every normal day people are not able to understand. Evil and suffering are very tragic, and they happen every day. They will continue to, but evil, suffering, and atheism do not go hand in hand. Just because someone is atheist does not make them evil. It does not mean that they are suffering because they do not believe in a God. Just because you're a theist doesn't mean that you're just good and you won't suffer. Some of the best people in the world suffer the most. Some of the most innocent people suffer from things like cancer, sicknesses, and diseases that we can't even fully understand. So for that to happen, it's just something that happens in the world, and philosophers are able to understand this and explain this in ways that we can interpret and start to understand the gist of everything. Creating this video has taught me that everyone has their own view. This whole class has taught me that everyone has their own views, and people are able to understand those views if they really try to. The other thing is that everything we've talked about, atheism, evil and suffering, they all have a toll on us as who we are. And sometimes we just don't realize what's going on. But if we really look in depth, we can fully understand and we can go about our lives different. Philosophers understand this. So philosophers live questioning, while some of us don't question anything.